I'm just gonna talk like normal people. This is gonna be
All
a
right.
random, weird, different episode.
A random,
So
weird, different episode.
we're stupid, and we have a tendency
We're not
of.
stupid. We just don't listen to ourselves when we need to.
Okay, so we had this whole conversation for the last 30 minutes about our relationship, and I was just opening up a little bit more because in the last few episodes, in the last couple days, I have came out more and more about me and my story and my point of view inside of things. And I was explaining to my mom, and of course, it's slowly leaving my fucking head as we're sitting here
Of
recording.
course. We're just gonna have to learn to just be like the very second one of us gets the record, we hear record, we just need to listen and just go hit screw it, record. If we don't use it, we don't use it. Because we have so many great conversations off camera, you guys.
I was talking about experiences in my life with her and her narcissistic ways. And like there was a situation where we were going on a family camping trip and things were already everybody was already kind of irritated and annoyed. We were taking two separate vehicles and the three vehicles. It was supposed to be two, but it turned into three. And my vehicle was having issues because every time I climbed into that vehicle for some godforsaken reason, it would
Although your brother's
backfire.
owned it for years.
And he's driving it around today and no problems like where I had it. But we were leaving for this camping trip early morning and it backfired all of a sudden. And I was like, okay, one little mishap will be fine. And then I did it again, literally 20 minutes later. And so we had to turn around and go back home. And she was extremely mad and angry. And when we got back to the house, she got out of the car and she told me that I ruined their birthdays. It was my fault that they're ruined and that my sister was crying because of me and, look what I did. And I was already torn up and felt horrible. And then I had that on it added onto it and it broke me. I immediately felt like I was a complete disappointment in the family. I immediately felt like I was the biggest pieces of shit because I ruined their birthdays, and it's always me that ruins their birthdays because a couple years prior to that, I was in a car wreck, and so I just felt like I was the sole problem to everything. And me opening up about that, I don't think she's ever knew that, but me opening up about that was something that opened the door to our conversations of
Bless you.
but it opened the conversations of why I'm still like why I'm willing to be here and doing this. In one of our episodes, I had a little bit of a breakdown because as I was explaining it, I realized that I have always been there, continuously been there, and in the best way that I possibly can, whether it was taking care, doing everything, just doing what I can to be there. And I'm looking back and seeing a lot of abuse and going, holy shit, I didn't realize this. Well, I've been such a light and I just kind of had somebody snuffing my light out. And that hits really hard on both sides.
Yeah, it does.
And, the
To be the
post
one
that
to snuff to know. I'm sorry to drop, but
you're
to
good.
know, like when I dedicated to the radical acceptance and the healing, I dedicated to having these conversations, and I dedicated to seeing the parts of me that I didn't remember, the seizure parts of me, and even the non-seizure parts of me, because it was still the seizure parts were just reflective of my injuries. And it was literally my injuries on steroids. And my injuries were, at that point in time, control. And I was literally like I said, I don't remember like really a whole lot. I remember you breaking down I only remember it once, but I remember and the decision of turning back around and me being so angry because like I said, I don't know if this is truly what how it happened or not. Like, cause but in my head I was like, I was right. I was the right one. See what happens when you don't listen to me. We should have only taken one vehicle, and that's literally what was going on in my head, and that's how I was. And that, and that was like you were just trying to bring your own fucking vehicle. Like, what was the big fucking deal? We turned
Yeah.
around. We turned around. We repacked the vehicles, but here I was, and then literally my other daughter, was crying because of me, not because of you. Again, like I said before, my projections of me and my failures I put onto you.
And, I have to learn that I'm not a because to this day, as I was explaining, and I'm gonna cry again over it, is that I am working so desperately hard to not be the disappointment that everybody sees. I don't want to be the piece of shit that everybody has always said I was going to be, or certain people said I was going to be, not everybody, but certain people said I was going to be. And, I I have the biggest fear of turning it or being something that I have to be the people pleaser. I want to everybody to be
Yeah.
happy and accepting of who I am and what I'm doing. And, like even the podcast, because it's so, everything we talk about is such a stigmatism that I am kind of get fearful of talking to, I have a podcast about this because I'm so scared of what people are going to think of me.
Right. I do the
I have
same thing.
such a huge fear of that. And because family members, I don't tell them about it.
Yeah.
Yes, I post it on my Facebook. Yes, I post it, but I have such a fear of what are they going to think of me because
Especially
this
when you go
happened to
into
me.
the depths.
Exactly. And I hid everything from everybody. I finally came out and told you almost everything. I'm pretty sure there's still things that pop up. But of a lot of the traumas, never went into detail, but you know, but I have these traumas that I never told anybody. And, so now these family members are finding out or hearing about it through this, and it's like, what are they thinking of me? What am I doing? Am I doing it wrong? And that is something that sits on me so heavily is, you know, that alone.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that one. Um, especially since it's us healing and because I'm the mom, so I've done a lot of the trauma and I am the abuser, you know, um, as the being the abuser. And even though I'm not trying, look, I'm not trying to explain anything off. I was in my traumas. I was living in a fear based, trauma based mindset. And I'm not trying to explain any of it off. I did the best I could when and with what I knew how. But regardless of the matter is that now I do know. Now I know. Now I know better. And now that I know better, I'm the type of person that breathes life into people. And to think that I didn't breathe life into my own children the way that they needed me to breathe life into them, like that is a gift of mine, you know? And why didn't I give that gift that my children should have inheritedly be given? Like that it's like that is something and I didn't do that. That not the way I should have. Not when you needed it at the time. Yeah, I'm willing to do it now. But at the time, I have to face the no, I wasn't willing to do it then. And I'm still discovering and trying to figure out all of that BS, you know. But all I can do is just say I'm sorry and I'm thank you for being here and allowing me to make up, you know.
Well, and like I was saying before we did the recording was I know that you are apologetic for what happened, and I know that you see with the damage, and and you're accepting of what has been passed down, and that right there is why I'm willing to be here doing this. Why I'm willing to sit next, well, not next to you on the
Well,
screen,
we're
but
next to each other.
but I'm willing to sit here with you and have these conversations and be open. Like I said, 5 years ago, I said anything about me being hurt, it would have been,
I
you
would
did
have
something.
disregarded it. It was your fault. You did something to cause me to be that mad. And that's something that I really had to learn. And I don't know how I learned it. In all honesty, it was something that just kind of came with, for me personally, it was just kind of something that came with the accountability and with the whole part of the radical acceptance of where I was. Oh, 311, by the way. um, you know, I I needed to grow me and I needed to water me, and I had I had the light dimmed too. And
Mhm.
and my mother had her light dimmed as well. And I don't know for my grandmother because it was not spoken of. But I'm quite sure that it was dimmed as well, and as long as I have left to me, to me, not just to you, not just to the rest of the kids, not to the world, not to, but to me. I owe it to me to try to rectify as much as I possibly can. To breathe, to show you, Jeselle, all of that, you beating up on yourself that you're not enough. You want to know what that was? That's this person's voice. That's this person's voice that echoed in your mind when I should have been hugging you. I was telling you that you weren't enough. When I should have been telling you that you were more than enough, that you were everything, I was telling you and I was taking and I was stealing from you. And that is something that I have to face. Like it or not, I have to face.
And you're doing that now. Every
I
time we
will.
do something like this, every time I talk to you and I bring up more of my traumas and more of the shit that I've been through and I face, you're recognizing that you were my monster.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you see that you were my monster and you're going,
I was your best friend, but I was also your monster at the very same exact time.
especially as I got older.
Yeah,
And, and I had to make a decision, am I willing to keep this relationship going? If she's really going to do the work, I'm willing to keep this relationship going. But if she doesn't do the work, I can't be in this narcissistic relationship
I
anymore.
don't blame you. You
And
have absolutely right.
and I had to deal and almost mourn with the thought of cutting you out of my life, and that was, oh, that was hard
That'd be
because I'm like,
brutal.
because you are still my best friend, you're my mom, and I could still go to you about things. But there
Yeah,
was still so many things that I couldn't talk to you about, and then you would still be toxic to me in certain things, and the little things would just trigger us into a fight, and I just was like, I can't keep doing that. And it was either, and I didn't want to cut you out a little bit because I can't, I can't do a little bit. I don't know how, not
You're
with
an all
you.
or nothing.
Exactly. And so I started coming to this, am I going to really move? I have to move forward in my life. If my mom's not coming with me, I have to accept that because
Hmm.
I can no longer stay in this attacked and bruised and hurt life anymore. I need to move forward because this is not, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with me. I'm not happy with who I am when I'm in this. And but then you started making these changes. You decided to quit your drugs, and then we started looking, looking through the glass, and
I think it started with not with the quitting of the drugs. I think it started because I had made the decision to quit long before, but I knew that I didn't have a relapse in me because if I relapsed, then there's a high chance that I won't get off of it again.
yeah,
So I had to do that. So the work started a long time ago. It's just now coming to fruition.
and that goes to show that a lot of work goes into people who are damaged. It takes a lot, and it
Yeah.
does. It
It
is
literally was
energy
10
draining.
years. 10
It is
years of just doing
because
that soul
you
searching.
you were changing 10 years. It's well almost 12 years ago.
Yeah,
You
well,
were
right before I
changing.
hit my head, and then
Yeah.
yeah, the head injury literally not only put things in halt, but it literally almost erased everything.
Yeah, so and that's where, like I said, when I moved back to when I talked about me moving back from Oklahoma, there was a little bit of that betrayal because it was my mom isn't this person anymore. And, you
Yeah,
know, and then all of a
understandably, it wasn't
sudden,
intentional, but it's just that it was just the situation of what we were in. It was never intentional because I would like to think because I can't say what I would have done, but I would have liked to think that I would have continued because I was starting to see a difference in the chaos in myself. And then the head injury happened and all of the chaos that I was trying to sort through like erupted.
and it was really right after. So I moved back from, it was that summer that I moved back. I turned 17, so that was 2014. Um, and
March of
that was,
2015 is when I hit my head. And we were
yeah, so
building on our relationship and all of it and talking
we
about
had a
all of the
year.
shit that we were like doing what we're doing now and then I hit my head and then like all
Yeah,
of
we
the
had almost a year of, working on our relationship and
yeah.
getting closer. And, there was situations where we got even closer because it's like, oh, we're back into, getting kicked out.
Guess who's got each other's back again type thing.
Exactly. And so, that was, it was like, we still got this. But that year was like my mom is not that person, seeing you, be who you are and getting to see a side of my mom that I so desperately missed and I absolutely love because I started to see that in that spring of
Yeah.
2014.
Yeah.
I got to
Well, because
see that.
I had a little time to work on myself between the very horrific toxic relationship that both you and I endured. And to that point, was doing a lot of inner work while you were gone. Like while you were in Oklahoma, I did a lot of inner soul. But yeah, no, the head injury absolutely just like and this is where I say things happen for a reason is the head injury. Like you want to call it the devil was trying to block it, whatever. We came out victorious because here we are doing it again.
But as they say that and how we got on this topic, you say everything happens for a reason. It says behind a girl who says everything happens for a reason, there's a girl who can't understand what she did to deserve all the pain and trauma she's been through. So as
Yeah.
you were saying that for me, it's for yourself too.
Yeah.
You
I
know, you
realize.
faced a lot too. And, you know,
I
I like,
realize that I sit there and I go da 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 for you, but I don't do it for myself.
and I do the same thing. And we are very, it's very common for us to be able to do that. That's why it takes multiple people in this community in the mental health community, because as people are facing mental health, they're
Mm-hmm.
helping others and they're forgetting about themselves. And then as you're helping those others, you need to have somebody else behind you to help you help yourself.
To remind
Because
you that you are everything that you are telling everybody else they are.
exactly, that's why we sit here and we go, oh, we need to check in with such and such. Because we go, okay, we need to make sure they're doing okay because they're doing the same thing that we're doing. And we know that they're forgetting to check in on themselves. You know,
Absolutely.
they check in on us, we check in on them, and that's why we do this. And, you know, and the reason why I really do this is because I know that I'm not the only one who has a mother that a parent that they so desperately love and they care about and that they want to have that relationship with, that they do somewhat still have a relationship with, and it's straining because the parent, you know, it could be not seeing the trauma that they're putting onto their child.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's a very common, that's so common right now. And especially
It is
people
very
my
common. I'm
age.
going through it with my own. Well, I'm still going through it with my own mom. Like
Exactly.
I love my mom, and my mom's doing the best that she can, and I'm not having any judgment. She is where she is. At least she's in a certain spot where she's working, but there's still that wanting to defend herself and wanting to, well, I was, well, I was, well, I was. Well, it's not about where you were. It is about where your child was.
Well, and this is where how why we and you and I talk about this. You have accepted that this is my truth. Whatever,
Hmm.
however you felt, that was your
Doesn't
truth.
fucking matter.
It doesn't matter because this is how I'm feeling. And I
Hmm.
can still sit here and go, I understand what you were going through and what you were facing. And that's why I don't have a resentment towards you. I can have my own feelings and not resent you. There's no reason to resent you.
Hmm.
I went through it. I faced it. I'm still standing here today and probably stronger than I have ever been. And
I am very proud of you and how strong you are.
thank you. But I just, and you know, and if she ever hears it, if my grandmother ever hears this, I want her to know there's no resentment. There's no reason to have
Yeah.
resentment. And that way she doesn't have to feel like she needs to defend herself because you are already defending herself in your head as you're dealing with your shit.
Hmm.
And that's how, and honestly, I think that's probably the best way I've ever been able to explain it is that I'm still defending you in my head, but giving myself validation.
And that you can do both at the same time, and it is okay to do both at the same time, and that is what it takes to heal. And that,
Yes.
and you know, as a parent, okay, as a parent who wants to defend, believe you and me, we have our reasons. They know we had our reasons. They just want to be heard. They just want to be heard. And I really, 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 really hope that there are parents out there and there are children out there that we can get through. And I'm not asking because I have a parent that I refuse to allow into my life. And I completely understand why you would have to do that. And I completely understand what it takes to mourn somebody while they're still alive. And then I also have to contend with, well, how am I going to feel? What regret am I going to feel when they're gone? And I don't have any more chances. Like, I contend with that on a daily basis when it comes to my dad. But at the same time, my dad has not proven to do anything to try to. rectify our relationship in any way, shape, or form. And I have to accept that for what it is. So I'm
Exactly.
not telling, we're not saying if that person is still toxic to you for you to take that toxicity. All we're doing is just saying, this is where we're at, this is where we've been, and this is what we've been able to do. And we know that we're not alone in these abilities.
You can tell when somebody's healing or they're trying to do inner work and they have progressed. You can tell when they have progressed. And if with me, and this is to anybody, if you're like, ah, fuck that shit, I ain't dealing with it, please you. That's
Then don't
you.
deal with it.
Don't deal with it. I don't blame you. That's just for
To
you.
each their own. To each their own in this. This has got to be a you decision and a you only
Exactly.
decision.
This was my decision, and like I said earlier, I was making the decision on whether I needed to cut you out of my life or not. I've made decisions with several family members. Am I cutting them out, or am I willing to continue to put work towards this?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes it turns into a one-sided thing. I recognized and I saw you working on yourself. I took a break from you, and then you barely talked to you, barely had anything to do with you, come back and you were my mom. You were happy. You were literally living life in the best way you possibly could. And there was so much more light to you. And it was, I want to be around this person. This is my mom. Because I knew that my mom was an amazing, wonderful, beautiful person who
Thank you.
has so much life to give and so much love to give. It was that you had so many people and so many traumas around you and in you. And I knew that. So now I had to take that and go, okay, is this going to continue? Yes, we backtracked. And then we slowly, very snail paced, and probably slower than a fucking snail, to where we are now.
Well, this is where I go. Everything it has its time and its place, and there's I'm a very faith based synchronicity type of person, and not everybody is that way. But I always a few months ago I wouldn't have been able. Well, no, a few months ago I would have been able to have this conversation, but there was some things that I've heard in the conversation that we had prior to recording that I hadn't heard that I had to contend with in the moment. And you realize, and as time goes and as you do this, you learn how to analyze in the moment, how to contend with what you just that injury, that ego injury, because that's what it is. That's what it was. That's why it's narcissistic. It's an ego injury. So 100%, I have my husband calling me. 100%, we just hope that we can help others do what we're doing in any way, shape, or form.
I know that we will, and I know that our shit will hit the right people in the right
Right?
way. I know that it will, and just like others have came to us. And to conclude our 30-minute episode, if you or anybody wants to reach out, wants to have this conversation or any other conversation, you can reach us at 12 look in through THRU. Yeah, through. For the
Keep
gmail.com.
slapping.
Coffee.